care about current affairs, it's on the OShow.
Welcome to the OShow, Canada's current affairs show with strong opinions. I'm your host, Laura Babcock, and we are taping this show because there's so much going on in the election that we can't even wait until Friday when we have our OShow scandal panel back. I want to thank all of you who are listening and watching across Canada and around the world. These are very, very important times for Canada and for, as we're going to find out at some point today, our global economy. What's really going on, though, in Canada is beyond just threats to our economic sovereignty by the Trump administration and the Elon Musk regime. It's also threats to our sovereignty. And while Prime Minister Mark Carney seems to have had a change of tone set with President Trump recently, I think we're seeing that reflected in the polls. But polls are just polls. If we don't get out and vote at the end of this month, we might in fact end up having a Maple MAGA regime running Canada if Poilievre wins. We had a disturbing story about CTV deciding to cancel a segment with Rachel Gilmore. She was going to be a fact checker. Their reason was they didn't have the bandwidth to deal with the far-right trolling that was coming in. We also, of course, had Poilievre weighing in on the biological clocks of millennials, which, grossed me out on levels. I want to invite to the OShow for the very first time Sarbjeet Kaur. She is the founder of Kapow Communications, and Adam is a social media influencer and a Hamiltonian. And so your handle on social is Coffee Time News. You have a huge following. You weigh in on Canadian and U.S. politics. Adam, other than your social media work, why might people across Canada and maybe even the U.S. know your family name?
My grandfather played for Hamilton Tiger Cats, Edmonton Eskimos, and Toronto Argonauts. He's from Texas, came up here in 1959, played for the Eskimos, won a Grey Cup there, won a Grey Cup in Hamilton, and he's in the Hall of Fame. He passed away a couple of years ago from cancer. But yeah, it was once pretty popular around here. I mean, it was before my time. I was born in 75. He retired in 73. But I was down at the old Iverwin Stadium when he was one of the first four names to go up on the wall. I believe it was Angelo Mosca, Joe Zuger, Ellison Kelly, and my grandfather. And to see that in the 90s, just the standing ovation, honestly, I got chills thinking about it now still.
And his full name?
Tommy Joe Coffey.
There you go. I want to start with you, Sarbjeet, because you saw the Poilievre statement around the biological clock, and you made a comment that I thought kind of elevated the conversation. What was your reaction to his comments? And what are the policy things that people should understand about Poilievre?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's nothing new to know that women are not, Poilievre is not resonating with them. Polls consistently show that women are not warming up to him, and it's women across all age categories. So then him talking about biological clocks of women, the terminology coming from a man is just very strange. Kind of it's off-putting. Some people call it the ick. And so it's on that road. And then it's also, where's this person coming from? If you feel like somebody actually cares about you, your family, and women, you give them a little bit of grace. You might think it's good faith, even if it comes off like a lead balloon. But unfortunately, this is a party that has a big chunk of candidates who have very controversial, to say the least, opinions about a woman's right to choose. And that's been dogging them for a very long time. But these candidates openly do not support women's abortion rights, and that's in the background. Secondly, this is a party that, again, if you're talking about affordability for families and you care about women, you would support things like a national daycare program, dental care, pharmacare, a school lunch program. These are the things that help people save money in their day-to-day lives so that they can buy homes. So it seems that he's only concerned about women and families when it's about his political politicking. There's no substance behind it. And, it's a lot of men suddenly become concerned about women only for partisanship. And, then they talk about, single moms. Do you know a single mom? If you knew a single mom, you'd know that she would really appreciate daycare, saving, $2,000 or upwards a month, not having to worry about prescription drugs, expensive dental bills. Those are the things that make life more affordable.
And what concerns me about it is that kind of rhetoric, the way it was positioned along a housing announcement, it makes me concerned about the erosion of women's rights that we see with the MAGA party in the US. The states that are full on MAGA, red states, fully into this Trump 2025 doctrine, how they have been taking away the rights to reproductive care for women. When I lost my first pregnancy, I had to have a DNC. I would have died if I hadn't had it. This is incredibly serious to me as a woman, and serious to my daughter, who's a teenager, who wants to have her rights in this country. And I want to go to you now, Adam, because you also weighed in. What was your reaction as a man when you saw it? Because he did talk about couples. His comment was like the biological clocks of couples and wanting a home.
Well, Laura, like you, I have a teenage daughter as well. And I really think it's up to the women to decide, to choose what they want to do with their reproductive rights, what they want to do with their bodies.
Yeah.
I was offended as a man to hear a man come out and say that and politicize it, like you said, during another political announcement. But I also think that he's following in the footsteps of Donald Trump. I think he's the same messaging. He's doing the same rhetoric. I think he's a mini Trump. And that's my biggest fear is, like you said, seeing what has happened down in the United States. Like I said, I have family from Texas. I've seen what it's like down there. I don't want Canada to be like that. I want a brighter future for Canada. I want a future for Canada where my daughter can choose, where my son and my daughter can have kids, where they can be successful, where they aren't constantly trolled like for making their own choices. Everybody should make their own choices. I might not agree with, well, I don't agree with most of the conservative policies, most of the Republican policies. But those people can make their choices. I just hope that here in Canada, we make the right choice, because we see what's happening down in the States, and it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good at all.
Sarabjit, what is your sense of the risk assessment or the threat of MAGA in Canada? Do you think that I'm being hyperbolic? Do you think that Canada can never possibly go to those horrible places that look like the Handmaid's Tale?
No, we're seeing in real time that everything we thought could not happen can definitely happen. But again, this context of MAGA is very important to frame Pierre's comments, because, I could talk about the biological clock. I give young women advice all the time. Hey, don't wait for the perfect circumstances. It gets harder as you get older. But in the context of MAGA, women are seen as basically housewives, baby makers, traditional, bring back the olden days. So when he talks about women, you never hear him talking about women having better access to educational opportunities, or, eliminating the wage gap so that they can contribute more and afford a house. It's in the context of baby making, biological clock. And that's why it's concerning and offensive beyond just, if an expert or a doctor were talking about this issue. So I think it's very much aligned with this idea of women being seen as a specific vessel for families and making babies, which is very much in line with the far right and the MAGA movement, whereas we are voters and we don't like to be seen as biological ticking clocks. And that's the only time you're going to talk about us is talk about our, inner workings of our bodies. So that's what's kind of to connect the dots for those people who either are playing dumb as to why this is not good, or really don't understand why it's offensive and very concerning.
I was trying to think of an equivalent. If a female politician was standing up talking about some part of men's reproductive process, or the fact that some of them need Viagra or whatever. Like how
your sperms get tired after a while too. You got to get on that. This is not appropriate. No one wants to hear that from the future prime minister.
Exactly. So I think sometimes when you hear something outrageous and you get outraged by it and people go, ooh, why the faux outrage? Flip it around and see how you would feel if you heard a female candidate for prime minister talking about, how viable your sperm get when you get older. Sorry.
I don't think anyone wants to hear
that. Are
that.
you my mom? Like, what's going on? Just very strange.
I don't even, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I pretty much agree with everything you said. Like the whataboutism, the pointing the finger, the gaslighting, it's too much. Like the amount of trolling that I see on Twitter, oh my goodness, and it seems like I've noticed this in the American elections. It was the same thing. It ramps up as the election gets closer. I see the same thing happening here now. And it's just like the way they contradict themselves and point the finger. And then, the old saying goes, you point the finger, there's three fingers pointing back at you.
Right. And what concerns me, and I want your opinion, you to follow up on this. You've got a huge following on X, and X is a very difficult platform right now. Now that Elon has owned it, it's lost all its guardrails. The amount of attacks and personal ad hominem things that I get all day long, like thousands, I would guess,
Yeah.
right, on an average day, as a woman who's speaking up and often about MAGA and Trump. And so it's gotten much worse in the last couple of weeks that I've ever seen. I don't even bother to block it anymore because a lot of these are paid trolls, so they're automated, right? You can block 50 accounts and there'll be 50 more waiting because they use the same keywords and the same misspellings, and so
Yeah.
so I want to. So, I mean, like, if I'm missing something or if I'm inaccurate about, how these trolls are animated, let me know. But I want to bring it to you on this with the Rachel Maddow thing, and then I'll get back to you on this subject. Rachel Gilmore. Rachel Gilmore had a segment on CTV. They approached her. They said, we want you to do a weekly fact check on the morning show. And in full disclosure, I've been paid by CTV to do commentary over the years. I've also worked for CBC full time back in the day. And she was given this. They approached her. And then they decided, because they got a ton of troll attacks about her from the conservative bot farms, from Poilievre's team, that they couldn't have the bandwidth to deal with it. And I thought, what a ridiculous excuse. The bandwidth, I have to deal with it. I have to learn to discount it and ignore it because it's crap. I'm not going to let that change who I have on the OShow. And so for CTV to do that, I think was cowardly. Charlie Angus called it, that they caved to Poilievre's online posse. And what was your reaction, just knowing how social media is organized and how aggressive these trolls are? What was your thought when you saw the story?
I think if I can deal with it on a daily basis, CTV should be able to deal with it, right? Like when I posted yesterday about the gas price dropping, I think it had something like 3,000 likes, and I think there was 5,000 comments. More to your point about the troll farms and the same, honestly, if there was 5,000 comments, 4,000 out of the 5,000 were the same three comments, like almost identical, copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste. And it's not, that's just one example. Like I see this all over social media. It's snowing outside right now. Oh my goodness. But yeah, no, like I think it's kind of a cowardly move by CTV to do that. That's what I think. I think we all deal with it in everyday life.
Yeah.
Stand up. That's what I think.
And Sarjeep, Rachel Gilmore has been getting it since her coverage of the convoy back when she was with Global. She gets terrible harassment. It's been well documented. What was your thought when you saw CTV's decision on this? They were the ones who approached her. Like, shouldn't they have known that this was going to be part of what might follow?
Yeah, I mean, they approached her for a reason. She has a following, people like her, and she does good work. She is a former global news journalist. She is an award-winning journalist. She's transparent about her views. And let's just be clear, that does not mean we all vote. We all vote for someone, hopefully. That doesn't mean in our day-to-day lives we can't be professional. And if somebody wanted to critique her fact-checking once she got on air, that would be one thing. But they went after her specifically on a very personal level. Half of these comments could have been trolls and bots, as you said, so not even legitimate complaints. And from people from the actual political peers party apparatus went after her. And so it sends a terrible message. They said in the audio recording, she was very smart to record it, that this is specifically because of the blowback that they got, the trolls. They said it's not fair, they feel terrible, but they don't want to deal with it. It's a distraction. We don't have the bandwidth. So to then send the message that, yes, you can target someone, you control them, you can just tag and cause a lot of noise, and that's going to get them fired or, canceled from the people who apparently are against cancel culture. It sets a terrible, terrible precedent. It's not the first time it happened with CTV either. You remember the Poilievre people complained over a little 2-word edit job that was a complete error. They didn't stand by their journalists then either. So this is a pattern. And for Rachel, who is a young woman who got this opportunity, to have it lost because they, a huge media operation that should have the power to stand with her, that they couldn't stand with her, they don't have the bandwidth. Who does? Who does then?
Right, exactly. And often with my clients, I do social media policies for them and I update them as it evolves. It's an evolving landscape. So whereas in the past, monitoring it closely and looking at each comment and assessing the narrative and seeing whether you should respond for a good service, that is not the same thing as when you're getting a ratio of bot attacks of using the same language. I mean, you can quickly identify, oh, this is a new attack, novel language, same spelling errors, and then you discount it. When I heard the producer make a point of saying twice on the audio recording, just to be clear, it's me making this decision. I own it. Saying it one time to me as a comm expert is like, okay, I just want you to know that I take accountability. I approached you. I own it. My bad. But to repeat it like that so emphatically made me kind of wonder, is it really? Or is this, to your point, more about CTV writ large not being able to handle pressure from the Poilievre camp?
Yeah, and the other thing is there are, and this is where the hypocrisy really strikes me, that there are other people who are on CTV who have done very egregious things, said terrible things, been called out again and again, but they're okay to be on air. They're okay to be platformed. And, I have had interactions with one such person personally. And then Rachel, because people don't like her, they find her, her point of view is not their point of view, but the quality of her work is there. But they don't have the bandwidth to deal with. So maybe if we all, and I don't believe that Liberals and NDP, we do this type of thing. I mean, if we all started going after every single, controversial conservative that they have on air, would they cancel them? So we are being punished for not being trolls? Is that the message that you're sending? Because everyone can play that game that if you don't agree with someone's viewpoint, you're going to make sure that they can't work.
And I've certainly seen that suggestion in response to this, swarms flood CTV with comments, but hopefully they wouldn't be troll based, not the vicious ad hominem attacks. I hope that the producers don't get the kind of hate that I get all day long, right? I would never want to be a part of any movement that would attack the individual and attack their appearance and attack their age and say all the kinds of horrible things that we're seeing from these troll attacks that we get from the MAGA movement, right? I mean, it's a change in tone in our politics, and I'm not Pollyannic, I'm no gentle flower. I'm perfectly fine with a good back and forth. I rather enjoy the fight. But it's different. The conversation that we're seeing now online, you can't even know if you're even dealing with someone who's not paid by a foreign actor, right? To try to get the conversation to be riled up and to get people divided. And this isn't just because we're sitting here with people who are active on social media. Maybe some of our viewers and our listeners are not as engaged in the swamp as we all are. But it's not just about social media. It's about, like we're talking about, the ability to get a journalist kicked off of a show they were asked to be on a mainstream network because of the pressure of these troll attacks, right? It's about chasing people out of public service. I had Charlie Angus on the show talking about within a couple of minutes or whatever, bringing up Poilievre in the House of Commons, he saw his daughters getting doxxed, right? Getting attacked online. I mean, that's madness that the RCMP has to look at how to protect our members of parliament because of how vicious and disgusting and toxic these politics have become. And I associate that with the MAGA movement because I haven't seen it before the MAGA movement.
Yeah.
So anyone want to jump in, please do.
Well, I agree. And we kind of seen this in the US where the Democrats are more, so say they have more morals, in my opinion. They're less likely to attack like that. They're more likely to play by the rules. And I think that tilted the playing field big time. If you have one team that's playing by the rules and you have another team that has no rules, how do you defeat that? Messaging wise, how do you defeat that? Especially when you have 77 million Americans that support that rhetoric. That I don't care. I don't care what Donald Trump said. I don't care what Donald Trump did. I don't care that he's a convicted felon. I'm still voting for him. We can't have that here. To me, it's disgusting. It's infuriating. And a lot of times you'll see me on social media go back at the trolls because I almost think that the left needs to fight back to level the playing field. I could be wrong on this, but I've seen what happened in the United States, and I don't want that to happen here. So how do you compete when the playing field is tilted? When, say, a liberal media station will hold somebody accountable, and a right-wing radio station or TV station won't hold somebody accountable. It's okay. And that's part of the chaos of the MAGA movement and the Maple MAGA movement is every day it's more chaos. It's the next thing. Like, they've already forgot about Signalgate, one of the biggest national security crises in how long? Since Watergate, maybe? It's already forgotten about. Yesterday's news. It's done. Right? Like,
Yeah.
it makes it very hard when
Great question. It's a great subject. What's your thought to that? I mean, do you fight fire with fire, or do you think that that's going to add to a larger conflagration and a further degradation of our political discourse and of ultimately our democracy and our civility?
Well, I mean, the way you fight back is not rewarding bad behavior. And this is why what CTV has done, and anyone who caves to this kind of pressure, that's feeding into saying, okay, these tactics work. If they said, hey, if you're online harassing women and we're not caving into that kind of pressure, they would understand that that doesn't work. They would maybe get some bad press for that and maybe back off of those tactics to say, hey, this kind of politics is looking bad on us. Bullying media is looking bad on us. But instead, when they reward it, they are part of making that landscape saying this is acceptable. We're just lowering the bar again and again and again. We're not calling out people because if we call them out, we're accused of being left-wing media and whatnot. So now you're playing their game to let them, spread misinformation or let platforming people who really shouldn't be platformed because they have official roles with the party, and you're shrugging and you're saying, well, that's their spokesperson. How can I not have them on? Where if you just say, hey, this person doesn't meet our standards, and this other person, there's nothing that you can point to that says they are not professional or they're not credible, other than the fact that you don't like their politics. And it's apples and oranges, but I think that they're just caving into the pressure, and it's sending a very, very bad message. And I also think there's a role for government. In some countries, they have taken steps against platforms that they can see are not doing anything to stop interference or bot farms or interfering in their elections. And they have done that in some countries. And we in Canada have allowed this to just run rampant. There was supposed to be an online hate act. And the communities who are impacted, whether it's racism or whether it's women, there's real harm there. Yeah. To let this just run loose.
Absolutely. And because I kind of have had a show for 25 years, not kind of, I've had a show for 25 years on cable or on YouTube. I've done tons of radio and all the different stations. You build up a skin to it. You get used to it, right? And I was still shocked by the level of the malice and threats that, and I used to report them to the police when this MAGA stuff started happening. And now it's kind of like, I'm used to it, whatever. I laugh it off. Occasionally I'll pick a troll just to showcase how ridiculous it is. And I just know myself. I'm over 50. You know who you are by this point. And so I really don't give a flying fuck what people say about I don't take for granted that not everybody has a thick skin. It can push people out of the democratic conversation. How do we ensure that people still feel empowered to go online, get information, find out what they need to know, go to their polling station and cast their vote in early voting or on April 28th? Sarabjit, let's start with you.
Well, again, I think we just have to look at this as a big picture. The far right, the MAGA, these kind of tactics, goal number one is to make people doubt mainstream media, conspiracy theories, can't trust them, they're lying, so that they will be more susceptible to believe misinformation. Door number two, for those who are still watching, silence your critics. This is what they're doing in the United States. They want to shut down, NPR and PBS. In Canada, they want to defund the CBC. Silence your critics. And Rachel is a young woman. She's not as established as maybe you and I, that we have a financial wherewithal and a business. They are making her life unlivable, taking food off of her table, making sure she can't be employed. So there's a whole generation of younger people that they are threatening their livelihood directly. So it's about, making people suspicious of the media so they can feed them fake news and misinformation, attacking that media, and then silencing the remaining critics that you have. So I think these tactics are very, very deliberate, and the fact that CTV has caved to them is so important because it's sending a message that they work. And CTV is a very powerful outfit. They could have stood by her.
We are being deluged by American-owned media, and our social media is owned by American tech oligarchs. And we have a real border, but that's on the ground. Our air border is open, and so we are constantly being inundated by messages that are deleterious to our Canadian sovereignty. I have 5 steps to know that you're arguing with a MAGA and what you can do about it. I'm going to post it in the program so people can have some tools. What is your advice for people to be able to stay engaged, vote in the election, and not get pushed out of the conversation because of these bullying tactics?
Well, I think you need, number one, not to believe everything on social media.
Right.
I mean, there's more misinformation than information on social media. I think number two, you have to stand up. You cannot be intimidated by the bully. You have to go out and vote. You can't let them, the layers of misinformation, the gaslighting, the intimidation, whether it's intimidation to a journalist, whether it's intimidation to the average person, that, okay, I just don't want anything to do with this. I'm not going to go out. I'm not going to vote. I'll be honest with you. I didn't vote in the provincial election. I am 100% going to vote in this election. I'm going to vote for Mark Carney because I don't want what's happening in the United States to happen to Canada. We can't have it. And you're right about, like, I think that it's not just the bot farms and the trolls. It's the money. It's the big money that's behind all this. I don't think international corporations and funds should be involved in Canadian media at all. I really don't. But this is what you're seeing. You're seeing more guys like Bezos buying the Washington Post. You're seeing guys like Elon buy Twitter. It's a huge problem. And the reason they're doing this is they're getting more money in the end, right? They're just getting richer and richer and richer. There's no more middle class. It's going to be the top and the bottom. And we can't have that. We have to get out and vote.
That was really well said. And obviously, I'm voting for Carney. I've never declared a partisan vote in my life on air, and I've never actually had a partisan sign on my lawn, but I got one now because this is a binary to protect my country. Couldn't care less how people voted in the past. Get out, vote, and vote to protect Canada. You know what? This went longer than I expected, but you guys are great. Excellent media panel that you can cross MSM and also social media so easily and talk about some of the policy consequences and some of the motivations and solutions, including legislation. I always try my best never to attack the person. I try to attack the idea or play back on it because I think there is something important about not going down into the mud, because you know what they say, if you wrestle with a pig, you both get dirty, but the pig enjoys it, right? And I don't want to be wrestling in the mud and getting dirty and eroding my own integrity just because we need to fight against this. But everyone, do whatever you need to do. Most importantly, get out and vote. Sarjeet, thank you so much. Adam, thank you so much. You're both excellent. And know where to find you on X if you're willing to go there. You're on other socials as well. Thank you for your time. Thank you for watching the O Show. Make sure to subscribe. We are, of course, independent, and you're going to get the straight goods and a little bit of or a lot of cursing from me when I feel so inclined. We need to have the conversation. We need to keep it honest and robust and authentic and fight back against MAGA. And please, please, please vote. Thanks, guys. You guys are wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
When you care about current affairs, it's on the old show. And when you want to get clear what's going on here, it's on the old show. If you like to stay in the know, tune yourself into the O Show. It's the O Show. Laura Babcock's the O Show. With a lot of great guests, she puts them to the test on the O Show. There's no doubt they'll be calling them out on the O Show. Stand for something or fall for it all. Ontario, hear the call on the O Show. It's a podcast, the O Show. Laura Babcock's the O Show. Stay informed with the O Show, O Show.
Your merch bid.